The purpose of this video is to provide a tutorial of Boole, a program that we're going to be using a lot in this class. So let's turn to see what Boole can do for us and how to navigate the program. All right, to navigate to Boole, what we do is go to the language proof and logic folder that you'll likely find on your desktop or wherever you've located it. Double click on it, and we find the Boole program here, B-O-O-L-E. Double click, and that will open up our program. All right, and this is what Boole looks like. What Boole does for us is it gives us an electronic way in which to construct truth tables. So in truth tables, we'll have a set of columns that'll be on this right side of this bar here. On this right side, we'll enter sentences that we want to construct truth tables for. So perhaps I want to construct a truth table for the sentence, the grass is green and it's not snowing outside. All right. So I'll enter the sentence there. You'll see this gray box. What that's doing is providing a column for what's called the main operator. That's something that we'll cover later on in a different video. Now that I have entered a sentence here, we can move over to the left side, and in the left side, this is going to be our reference column. And what we do with our reference column is we figure out all of the combinations of truth values that are the component sentences here, G and S, can take, since those are our atomic sentences. So I hit that plus sign so that I have two columns. In that one, I'm going to put G. In this one, I'll put S. And we know that because there's only two truth values possible to us, true and false, G can be T or F. Of course, S can be true when G is true, but it can also be true when G is F. But S can be false as well as true when G is true, and it can be false when G is false. So what this does is it exhausts all of the possible truth combinations for G and S. So row 1 is one of the combinations when both S and G are true. Row 2 is another combination when S is true and G is false. Row 3 is a combination when S is false and G is true. And the fourth row is a combination when S is false and G is false. So when we come over back to the sentence that we wanted to put in the truth table, G and it's not the case S, we want to know what are the truth conditions for this sentence. So when both S and G are true, as it is in the first row, does this sentence turn out to be true or does it turn out to be false? Well, to figure that out, we have to be able to figure out when not the case S is true or false. Now, when S is true and I say that S is false, which is what not the case S says, I'm wrong. So that gets the value F. But when S really is false and I say that it's false, I'm right. So it gets the value true. Now, when I say it's true both G and not S, that's right only when both are true. But as we can see over here, one of them is false, so that gets the value F. And what that means is any time that one of them is false, it gets the value F. But in this case, I see that G is true and not the case S is true. So in our third case, when S is false and G is true, we get the value true. Again, one of them is false, namely G here, so we know that it gets the value false. And what this does is it shows us the truth conditions for a statement G and not the case S. By hitting this plus button, what we can do is add yet another sentence. So maybe I want to say G or not the case S. Okay, so we know that this column, because it's not the case S, is going to look exactly like this column. But now what our or here says is, it just says at least one of these sentences needs to be true. Either the G or the not S needs to be true. Well, in this case, the G is true on our first row, as we can see right here. So it's true. Here, they're both false. So it's not the case that at least one of them is true. So it gets the value false. At least one of them is true here, so it gets true. At least one of them is true here, so it gets the value true. And now we can see that the truth conditions for G or not the case S is different than the truth conditions for G and not the case S. All right, so one of the things that Boole can let us do is it can let us know when we've made mistakes. So what if I were to put a T in places where there shouldn't be and put an F in places where those shouldn't go? What happens then? Well, I can come up here to this verify, and when I hit the verify button, we see that it gives us green check marks when we have completed the table correctly, and it gives us X marks when we have completed um, the table incorrectly. That's a nice feature because, as I like to say, back when I had to take this class, I had to do it all by hand, and when you turned in the homework, you didn't know whether you made a mistake or not. And it's all too easy as these tables get larger to make human errors. So it's nice to have this verify button to let you see whether you've made an error or not and to correct it before submitting that homework. All right, let's open up a new window so we can see some of the other features that Boole offers us. So I've typed in capital letters just for some of the sentences, but as we can see here, we have all these predicates available to us yet again. In fact, we have the pets language, which we get a bunch of other predicates that we have available to us. For this class, we're probably not going to deal with set theory or arithmetic symbols, just the block language, maybe the pet language. And again, we have our names that are available to us, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And we have the various connective symbols, identity predicates, contradiction sign, our quantifiers, and variables. So instead of using capital letters such as G as a sentence or S as a sentence and then connecting those with our connectives, we can make sentences using these predicates and using these buttons. So for instance, I can say A is a tetrahedron by pressing those buttons. Then I can use the connective or say it's not the case that E is large as an example. We can add another, to do a joint truth table, we can add another sentence. So you can notice that when I'm making a predicate such as large, it'll make it red when I haven't written it correctly. So when I don't have a well-formed sentence, something that's grammatically incorrect. So instead of large, let's say maybe smaller than C as an example. Say if B is smaller than C, then A is a tension control. Okay, so we've said some things in block language here. If we look at this button, what it will do for us is it'll build out our reference column. So instead of going over here and having to type these um, atomic sentences out to figure out our truth combination, it just does it for us. Um, so that's nice. You'll notice in the homework that at first you won't be allowed to do this because you need to be able to test that you understand how to construct a truth table on your own. But once you've demonstrated that, then you'll be able to use this function to build that part out for you so that it's faster. That's nice. Same sort of thing here. Not only can we build out the reference column, but we can have it filled for us. Again, in the earlier homework exercises, you won't be able to use that, but over time you will be able to. And the way that this is done is it's done in such a way that it exhausts all the truth, um, all the combinations of truth values that are available for these three sentences. So in the previous window, we saw that there were only 4 rows, but because we have 3 sentences, we need 8 rows to be able to capture all that. And that's something I'll discuss in another video. All right, so the last thing to really point out for Boole is this assessment button. If we click on that, we see that we can say of the various sentences that we have whether they are a tautology, whether they're truth table possible, whether the sentence is contradictory. We can also say if we have a joint truth table with multiple sentences like we do here, we can assert whether they are tautologically equivalent, whether one is a tautological consequence of another, whether it's tautologically consistent, so on and so forth. And those are different concepts that we'll learn as the class continues, but this is where you would make those assessments if you find a homework exercise that asks you to say whether a sentence is a tautology or whether the sentences in question are tautologically equivalent, and so on and so on. All right, well, that is Boole in a nutshell. Thank you for watching.